Unlab is an architectural office based in Rotterdam. I'm Andreas Faoro, and Francesca Rizzetto is the other partner of the office. Actually, the title of the lecture is really strange in a way, and what if space were the real luxury? Actually, space is a vague term, paradoxical somehow. Probably we need to define space more deeply, and actually all of us are dealing with space in different way and for different reasons. Actually, starting from Rotterdam, that is where we established the office. On the left, Rotterdam in the 1945, after the Second World War, describe what can be defined an empty space. Actually, our office is in front of the St. Lawrence Church, at the third floor, and now you can see, after 70 years, what the Netherlands and Rotterdam is. On the background, you can see and you can recognize the Marktol, a new covered market plaza by MVRDV. And so, in a certain way, we can compare these two pictures and to talk about space. Referring to the Netherlands, a platitude that is really interesting. Actually, God made the world, but the Dutch made the Netherlands. This reminds us that they are struggling and they are working continuously in order to maintain their land suitable for urban construction. The office actually is working on different key issues: edge, unbuilt, ecology, island, field, territory, collaborations. When we talk about space and referring to art, it's obviously easy to connect concepts. Marina Abramovic in this picture show us during a performance that the space means relation and interaction, as well as Edouard Rachet. This painting, actually this canvas, is not really visible, the frame, but it means it's really important for us. It's one of the important reference that we use, and referring to it, Russia. In this canvas is visible a pencil. The pencil has a dimension. Words, space is a word. It's not something that we can compare and reduce within a scale. Again, what if space were the real luxury? Actually, nowadays we are struggling with the collectivity and the individualism that is part of our life. This is something that we consider an important issue in order to not only to design, but also to think about society. Actually, space, as I mentioned before, is a term, a paradoxical term. Here there is a series of books, but obviously there are more that somehow refer to spaces, and spaces are something that architecture but also urban design are dealing with continuously. So architecture defines spaces. Going back to art and to Idwa Russia, standard station features an iconic image of a gas station that reprises throughout the show in a variety of color. This is one of a series. The artist has referred to the building as zoom architecture. It's built to catch your eye as you drive by. The station and its bold red and white sign thrust diagonally across the picture plane under a smoggy blue-orange sky. As I mentioned before, Russia loves words. During the presentation, and referring to what has been said, our office is not only involved with project and design specifically, but engaging with media, in this case video. This is a video that are still frames of a video referring to what we can call heterotopian spaces. This was a competition promoted by the University of Ascoli Piceno, and together with Fondazione Libero Bizzarri. And actually we decided to consider the Autogrill, this standard building, as a space, as a theater of our life. At the Biennale de Lyon, the title was The Spectacle of Every Day, something that, again, we proposed, and we presented a video depicting the labor in the fabric, in the Piaggio company, and the society that actually, when we compare living and working condition nowadays, is not anymore possible to consider the two things separated, but working and living is part of the same coin. Michel Foucault is another important figure, and going through his text, and in this case through the other spaces, we realize that one of these other spaces was the ship. The ship is the heterotopia par excellence. Another video representing, in this case, Venice, this movable space and the solidity and the fragmentation of the urban fabric became, for us, really interesting to compare and to put together. Another tool that we use is a photo, and photos are an essential way to look at the surroundings. The Netherlands has a big delta. The delta in the north side, you can recognize Rotterdam. On the bottom, Antwerp, the port of Antwerp. But then, looking at this territory and this amazing landscape, we immediately referred to this book, Los Angeles, The Architecture of Four Ecologies by Rainer Banham. The delta, the Benelux delta, is a proper urban entity without weight in it, or without aiming for it, without realizing it. 60 years after the flood, it is potentially a system on its own. Perhaps through a strange leap of faith and reconsidering what the artificial relationship between built and land, the impact of this land is not only it is not only related to the landscape, but also to the huge infrastructural apparatus. This is an abstract depiction of the four ecologies. Actually, is a collage where the four ecologies described by Rainer Banham are depicted: the Surfurbia, the foothills, the plain of ID, and Utopia. The delta, as I mentioned before, is not only an amazing landscape, but it is surrounded by a great number of ports. Actually, the first port, the biggest port in Europe, and the second one, Rotterdam and Antwerp. We tried somehow to decline into another perspective, and this delta. Actually, the huge land and water is not enough to describe this land. What we recognized in this study and research is the borders, the urban condition next to the industrial condition and infrastructural condition. The ports are actually some edge of the city and the urban fabric. The port of Rotterdam is a huge platform, concrete platform, and on the same time it represents the biggest economy in the Netherlands. Next to that, there is a drawing on the left describing the objects or the element that constitute this port. The same, the port of Antwerp. This is a project of a new type of dock that becomes also a gate for accessing the city. Some images. This research somehow brought us through other projects. This, specifically in Helsinki, was a competition of the South Harbour in Helsinki. And literally, we decided to redefine the edge of the city with an offset, actually. An offset that, in this case, extended the park on the left towards the quay side, and redefining the technical space for ships and boats, and redefining somehow the size and the technical space. Some images related to this project. This is a maquette, in a model in resin that we did, and another images. Extending the edge into the water through this portico, this urban type that somehow became the new border, defining a passage and connecting a suspended urban whole that somehow is not visible as I thought. But anyhow, this is another port, another competition in Greece, the Piraeus port, that actually we consider as an extension in redefining the space of the coast. We decided to excavate and to make the water as the real subject. In the middle there is a gray square that is a former silos, and where we placed actually and we designed a new museum as part of this cultural renovation of the port, the Piraeus port. The master plan obviously redefine the space for water and for activities, and these are actually sampling of this system of activities taking place, and together with the museum that actually we decided to make it as much as possible open and porous as the master plan. So extending the master plan within the building, so redefining the scale of the building within an urban intervention. Research. Next to the design and video and other activities and writing, actually we started through research and through especially European cultural project. We work and we collaborated with universities and different private and public institutions, and with one of the project, Europa, European Public Architecture. The coordinator of the project was the municipality of Jesolo. Jesolo is a municipality on the north side of the lagoon, Venetian lagoon. So through a research project, we had the possibility to develop a project reconsidering the Kenzotange master plan and proposing to the municipality new pier, actually a double pier, one facing the lagoon and one the Adriatic Sea, through a pedestrian path. These are some images. On the left, the pier that, in this case, in a form of a pool, and the other is an extension of the beach into the water, extending the public spaces. Housing is another issue that for us was really important, especially if you are in the Netherlands. This specifically was a research that we did collectively within the Berlage Institute in Diyarbakir. The research and the project, let's say the applied research, was part of a MATRA project, a project financed by the Ministry of Infrastructure with the municipality of Diyarbakir. Toki, maybe you already know the story behind these constructions, and Toki is a governmental entity that produces social housing, but not only. Something that somehow we can call urbicide. So referring to Diyarbakir, actually we neglected the approach from the municipality, and we open instead a new interpretation of the urban tissue, especially the spine or the space in between the main highway and the railroad, establishing first a number of public spaces framed, but really defining something that because of the density on one hand, and because the tremendous difficulties, obviously we are talking about a city with a lack of infrastructures and other things. So we consider two strategies. One, as I mentioned, reconsidering the public spaces along and in between these two main infrastructure, and then reconsidering through a light infrastructure within the city, rebuilding some part of the urban fabric and extending the idea in a micro scale of the public spaces. These are other images. Then that project and then that research for us was really important to work on another housing issue, the competition promoted by the UNESCO, the UN Habitat, and referring specifically to a site in south of Rotterdam, Pendrecht. Pendrecht is an emblematic, let's say, spot of the of Rotterdam. Actually was part of the reconstruction after the Second World War, and what we started thinking about this special, I would say, lot, starting exactly from per via negativa, means that we considered and we decoded the spaces, not only the spaces in between, but re-understanding the value of the connectivity among different spaces within the site. Actually, we developed further the project with Woonstad, another entity related to the municipality of Rotterdam, and actually we are extending the notion of the stamp. The stamp was the first, let's say, the DNA related to this housing stock. Then housing in another way, the reuse of a building for cultural and entertainment, but also for, let's say, cultural activity, just to say that we maintained the perimeter of the main building in the area, but then we redevelop the interior, redefining also the structural elements within it. So then changing again scale, going back to the landscape. This is a project, a recent project we won within the Atelier Albania framework in Berat, in Albania. Is a UNESCO site protected by UNESCO, and with a really interesting Ottoman architecture. The project is the island within the Osumi River. So in this project, and we redefined and we tried to look the river not as something detached from the urban tissue, but something that can connect and extend the public space within the water. Actually, these colors are not part of our reading and a water reading, but the darker color are representing the solid edges, and the soft color, the white color, is the soft edges. Means that we are talking about sedimentation and erosion, not about water level. So for us, as I said before, it was something that is not only about landscape, the project, and is not only referring to the water, but the main issue here is to extend somehow the public space into the water. The existing public space is visible in gray, and in black is the new project, the X bridge and the frame. So the metrics that we presented at the municipality during the presentation redefined somehow the value and the connectivity to the water, and referring to the X bridge, actually the bridge is not only an infrastructure that connects one side to another one, but is meant really to be public space, a square on the water. Obviously, a number of activities within the pool are taking place, and actually we are developing the feasibility study and implementing the project together with the municipality and the UNESCO and other parties involved within the project. This is a view from the castle. And this is the maquette. So just to finish with a project that we started 1 year ago, in November 2014, Atelier Taranto. Atelier Taranto is a project supported by the Dutch Embassy and the creative industries, the Stimuleren Fund NL. Is a research by design. There are a number of people involved, as you can see, and I mean, collaborations are a fundamental part of our job, and is not something that we can consider in a separated way. Then, referring to Taranto, obviously, we know Taranto because of the Ilva, and now the Ilva factory, the biggest steel plant in Europe, is almost dying. Then we need to reconsider other economies within a territory. We have chosen this circular territorial sample not because we like this round shape, but because in 2010 a law from the region decided to actually this sample is referring to a forbidden territory, means that is forbidden graze and obviously agriculture. So within this huge territorial scale, we specifically consider issues related to water, to agriculture, to tourism, and another function. So this is an island, the Città Vecchia in Taranto, and is actually one of the most impressive historical center in Italy, and immediately we recognize the value of this density and the really you perceive the massive of the urbanity. So as I mentioned, we are working on different areas. This specifically is between the Ilva factory and the Tamburi neighborhood and a logistic park. Then we proposed an open space along the Roman aqueduct and the Tamburi neighborhood with new public spaces and the Borgo that is next to the Città Vecchia, and obviously the territory that can really be part of a new understanding, not only specifically in Taranto, but for other places. So at the end, at the end of November, we are going to present the whole research in the City Hall, and we are collecting all projects and the research within an atlas that somehow will be a synthetic overview of our work. So this is Hollywood Boulevard, and again we are talking about space. Thank you.